Welcome to the I Am a Solution show. I'm your host, Coach Juan.
I'm your host, Coach Moo. Today, we got a very, very special guest in the building.
Very special.
Miss Brandi Fisher. She's here. I'm gonna read a little bit off of this website that I looked her up on, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about anything, or if you want to edit something. Brandi Fisher is the founder and president of the Alliance for Police Accountability, APA. This is an organization dedicated to criminal justice reconstruction, founded in March 2010. But y'all expanded on that, right? Or is that
just
still
a little bit, but you're fine.
Was you fine? All right. Miss Fisher personifies love for community. Facts. Is a strong voice for justice and teaches us how to be fearless in the face of opposition. Facts.
Straight soldier.
While never compromising principles to please others for self-gain. In 2017, she spearheaded an organization in organizing the very diverse Woodland Hills School District, who successfully ran a campaign to replace 4 school board members and the principal as a result of students being abused by staff and school police. That facts?
Facts.
Facts.
Got them up out of there.
In 2018, as a result of this uproar in the community regarding the response to the Tree of Life shooting, compared to the response of the tragedies that happened in our communities, the black communities, Ms. Fisher convened a group of leaders within the Jewish and black communities to address the disparities with the Pittsburgh City's administration. That's facts.
Facts. Everything in there's facts.
Everything's in there. Facts. All right. She also worked with the governor to successfully veto a bill, that's big time, man, that will allow the identity of officers involved in use of force incidents to be kept secret. She takes joy in bridging the gaps that exist between political officials, community members, and institutions. And under her leadership, APA's advocacy has resulted in financial awards of over $5.5 million.
It's 13 now.
$13 million. Big time. $13 million for individuals and families. Ms. Fisher also assists in writing and introducing policies and legislations such as the decriminalization of marijuana in the city of Pittsburgh, to the most recent ballot initiative to ban no-knock warrants in the city of Pittsburgh and extremely restrict solitary confinement in the Allegheny County Jail. Both these initiatives passed in May 2021 election.
Yeah, man, you touching on a lot of pieces when it comes to community and family and reform and just being an advocate for black folks. Honestly, I see what you're doing. We appreciate what you're doing.
Right.
And this is why we consider you a solution. No, because we like I told you when you got here, we want to recognize the folks that need to be recognized. We want our viewers to know who is part of the solution. And
I'm sure a lot of people know about you, but I'm sure there's people who don't know. So like any avenue to bring more awareness about what you do and everything that you're about, I think needs to be known, because it's inspiring to people. And it's people that's like-minded, so they know there's somebody else out there like that. Like how you leading these marches. I'm telling you, man, I got three brothers with me. We just on standby. We walking on the cut. We waiting for somebody to do something. Yeah. We there. So that's the type of relationship that me and Juan been saying is a solution. We gotta be partners and collaborators.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
We want to cover you.
So with that being said, can you tell us a little bit about what you do other than what we already talked about and why you do it?
Yeah. Your passion behind it.
I always told people, and when this happened, when Jordan Miles was brutally beaten right over here on Tioga Street in 2010, January 2010, that's what got me out into the work. but it was never the fact that it was the police. Like, the passion that came out of me was the fact that he was a kid. And youth have always been my passion. I've had a child care center for 15 years before I started doing this work. It's how I fed my family. And I was teaching at the time when I saw this on the news. I was teaching Sunday school at church, and it was children's church I was teaching. So I've always loved educating youth. I love the light bulbs that go off in them. I love when, because nobody's asked to be here. Yeah. Two people decided to go do their thing, created somebody, but nobody asked to be here. Nobody asked to be born in the neighborhood they're born into. Nobody asked to be born into the circumstances they're born into. And so I feel like it's our responsibility to make sure that they're taken care of, even if the people that they're born to cannot. And that's just how I was raised. My grandmother and grandfather had 10 children. My grandmother was with my grandfather since the day she turned 15 till he passed. Right? And so we've always had a very close-knit family. We was there every Sunday in church, every Sunday at grandma's house for dinner afterwards. Yeah. And so most of my cousins are like brothers and sisters. And so being raised in a family like that, I think just is what instilled in me this sense of family. Yeah. And it extended to community for me. And my grandfather was like that. Many people might not even know he's my grandfather, but Carter's food store up at 100 Park. He had that for 30 years.
I didn't know that.
That was my grandfather.
Right up there on the corner.
Yeah.
And you don't realize the influence that people have on you. But my grandfather, when people stole out the store, he didn't call the police. He put their picture up on the wall. Yeah. And embarrassed them like, you ain't allowed in here for 2 weeks. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But he didn't try to ruin their lives or call the police.
And he gave them an expiration date. He said 2 weeks.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you ain't out there for a while.
You get a chance to rehabilitate
but
yourself.
Everybody gonna see.
Yeah.
So you ain't gonna want to do this again. Yeah. He gave people credit. Yeah. Like, if they didn't have money to get the food, he would let them come back when they got paid, give them bread, lunch meat, whatever. You know what I mean? So when you ask yourself, like, why you do what you do, sometimes you don't even realize it yourself until you look back on your life and you're like, how did I get here and how did I become this person? It wasn't just because of me. It was because of what was instilled in me. He walked around with a gun on his hip. I didn't even think about open carry when I was little. Right. You know what I mean? But he just had a gun on his hip, walked around like he was in the Wild Wild West. Yeah. And everybody loved him then. Yeah. And that's because he took care of the people. And seeing that let me know that is our responsibility, is to take care of the community. He took care of our family, but he took care of everybody in Wilkinsburg, all around 100 Park. And they weren't even his kids or his family members, And so witnessing that, I think gave me that that when I met Therese Miles, Jordan's mom, and I saw her on TV, I was a single mom. I was a teenage mom. I had a boy and a girl just like she had a boy and a girl. I'm watching her on the news. And I asked myself, what would I do if this happened to my son? Right. Like, who do you call on the police? Right. I didn't have an answer for that. And I really just wanted to be there for her. And so I went to a meeting, actually at CEA. And interesting enough, that meeting fell apart because we had, Brother Rashad, we had Paradise Gray, we had Tim Stevens. At the time, Joe Preston was the state rep. Oh, man. And they couldn't get it. They was all fussing and arguing, talking about who was the best activist, who got arrested in the past, who was the Black Panthers, And I was just like, meanwhile, I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. I had never voted. I had never been outside my four walls of my church. I wasn't in community, and so I came in looking up to these folks, and I was quite embarrassed. I was like, there was all these white people in there, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, they just ended the meeting, and so I stood up and I said, I thought we were going to do something to help this family, and Brother Rashad organized me. He said, okay, well, you're going to be a head of the action committee. Yeah. And so they gave me, like, all the people's emails and phone numbers that was in the room. And that night, my little passionate self sent a very passionate email. Mind you, I don't know anybody's status. I ain't thinking nobody got power. I was just talking. And I told them that, I was ashamed. Now I see why the Black communities in the state that is, if there are leaders. I just went on this whole spiel. And I asked anybody that wanted to help to reach back out to me. And Miss Celia Welford from Friends, she's a Quaker. And they have Friends Meetings House over here. And she said I could use her space. And about 15 people have responded, and that's how we had our first meeting, and that's how we got started.
Big time.
Yeah, for sure. That's big time. The fact, right there. The fact that you were removed from what those guys were doing, I think gives you an advantage because you weren't saturated with the I'm better than you. You were there organically to
help a family.
Right? This wasn't about you and putting your name in the lights. It wasn't about how many times you got arrested for standing up for people, right? And you have a mother's heart, and you came, with a bleeding heart, honestly, because you saw similarities in Jordan's mom and yourself. And so when you come like that, when you do stuff with a pure heart like that, these are the people who get stuff done, honestly. And I really believe that because you grew up in that way, it sets you apart to do what other people cannot do.
It's funny, though, because people would never know. For the first 8 years that APA existed, or while we were building power, I funded it out of my pocket. Never received a grant dollar from anybody.
And that's crazy.
Right? I didn't know about grant funding. Right? I was partnered with all type of other organizations, so people thought I was one of these many. They were getting funding off my work.
Right.
They didn't say, hey, we getting funded for this.
That sounds super familiar.
They didn't say, hey, they got their logos on the flyers, you know what I mean? They see 600 people outside, and they said, and now I know they're sending that to their funders, right? But they never pulled my card and said, hey, sis, this is how you can build this.
This is how you
know what I mean? This is how you do this. And I'm steady taking food out my kids' mouths. I'm a single mom. And I'm paying for all the flyers, paying for the venues, paying for everything in my pocket because I just care. And I always
your passion.
And I'm led by God. That is really the truth. I don't, I'm not religious. I don't wear it on my sleeve, but I love God more than anything in life. And I pray daily. And I believe when you have a relationship with a higher power, because we have to look at the world. Like, we didn't get here. Some man didn't make us.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, who put all the universe together? There's something out here. That's greater than us. And when you tap into that, it gives you a sense of security. When you have faith that everything's going to work out, you don't fear anybody who pretends to be more powerful or has a powerful position, because that nobody's more powerful than God. They might be more powerful than me, but they're not more powerful than God, and they're not fighting me. You know what I mean? And so I try to represent God in all that I do. I try to make sure my steps are led, and I always told myself, the Bible says, what you put out comes back. And I always told myself, like, I'm investing into this work, I'm investing into this family, it's going to end in them getting justice. I didn't want anything back for myself. I wanted something back for what I was investing, and I wanted justice for that family. But it was hard.
So, like, we talked about this because, you for 8 years, the work you were doing was super impactful, right? But you had to fund it out of your own pocket. And we brought this up in one of our first episode about gatekeepers. And people, and when I think of gatekeepers, right, I think of people who don't want you to know about this. Even if it ain't their lane, they want to just take it all. And they don't want you to know this could be your lane. And they're not even involved in that. But instead of saying, hey, sis, you should tap into this because I know that's what you do, and they're looking to fund stuff like that. Instead of letting you know that, they will build another program within their own agency and just so they can keep the money. What do you think about gatekeepers, and why do you think in our community we are like that with each other?
I mean, I think specifically in Pittsburgh, right? Like, traveling a lot, you get to see different people, and everybody. We're 13% of the population, right? And so there's a small number of us, first of all.
Right.
We're also the most marginalized out here, meaning we're the ones that are at the bottom of education when you're looking at the numbers, right? We live in the neighborhoods. We have black neighborhoods. The city of Pittsburgh is so segregated, right? Where black communities are. Like, where's a mixed community at?
Right.
But you go to Dallas, it's not like that, right? You go other places, it's not like that. And they have a larger population of black folks. And so I think here in Pittsburgh, it's for several reasons. One, the majority of black folks in Pittsburgh are in poverty. It's just a reality, right? And when you don't have, you go into survival mode, right? And when you do get a little bit, you think somebody's gonna take it, and so you try to hold on to it. Also, it's philanthropy. The way these foundations run. Now that I do get funding, it's like they set a little bit of money aside for the black-led organizations, and you all got to fight over these crumbs, right? But I worked for a white-led organization. There wasn't crumbs coming through there.
Right.
right? And when I saw that, that's what made me start going after funding. Yeah. Because I said, wait a minute, like, why are we struggling?
They call it the urban programming.
Right, but it's like you want to set this little bit of money aside for Black-led organizations to fight over. Mm-hmm. So instead of us being in collaboration, we become competitors.
Right.
Right, and it's design. It happens that way, and I mean it's hard for people when you build an entity and you got staff and you're paying him, right? Mm-hmm. So now you feel responsible for his family eating, right? And so you become stingy to hold on to your money, but people don't. And I also tell people that poverty is a mindset. So even though people come into money after being in poverty, they still carry that same mindset. They still carry this mindset of scarcity. I don't know where my next dollar is coming from. Right. So they don't want to let it go. And they don't want to share it. And also some people are just hateful. You know, like they don't want to see you thrive. Yeah. Right? It's jealousy. I don't want to see you get bigger than me. I'm going to help you until you start getting higher than me.
I'm going to see you doing good, but not better than me.
And it's real. I've dealt with that in so many ways. I've had people steal my work. You know, they come pick my brain. We want to talk to you about this program. Right. And our organization has always been very needs-based. Mm-hmm. We don't sit back and think, oh, what are they funding now? Right. Right? And I believe that that's why God has always blessed us. Because when you stay on your path, you stay in your lane, and you focus on your purpose, like that's what you've been called to do. Right. And so the provision's going to always be there. You don't have to, now I want to be an arts organization. Right. Next minute, I want to be police brutality. Yeah. The next minute, I want to be, you know, like you're flipping all over the place because this is where they're funding. And the foundation see that too, you know. And I think also, you know, I think philanthropy is changing a lot here locally just because a lot of the conversations that I have been having with people on the ground doing the work. But I think historically, and even some present, it's really been this idea that perpetuates a cycle, right? Do we really want a solution? Because if you think about it, and I'm going to talk about violence, who benefits from there being violence?
The jobs.
There's a lot of jobs.
There's a whole...
We wouldn't have a district attorney if we didn't have crime. Right? There would be nothing for them to prosecute.
I say that all the time.
But we say we want to get rid of crime. We do. But we don't want to get rid of crime because I'm not going to have a job.
Not really.
You know what I mean? There would not be a need for police. Right, but when we say we don't need so many police, people act like that's wrong. We all should be saying that. If the purpose of them is to arrest people for committing crimes, if our goal is to decrease crime.
Yeah, right? No, that's real.
Like, it's common sense. It's
not a dig. Bombs.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's the truth. It's not a dig, but somehow we're made to be wrong. But don't defund education and close our schools. Yeah. You know what I mean? Absolutely. But so I always say that it's the way that society has been created, and it has always been created to keep us enslaved, to keep us on the bottom. Right.
So how do we combat that? Like, how do we, if we know this is going on, what do we, Black folks in the community, what do we do? Black leaders or organization, what do we do to combat that? Knowing they just got this little bit of money for us, we're gonna fight over it. How do we push back against that to really see significant change quickly? Because I don't like the 1 year we're gonna help 20, then the next year we're gonna help 40, when the next year we're gonna, I can't get down with stuff like that. If we ain't helping a lot of people right now real quick, I'm like, you can count me out of that. Because that's the old way of thinking, when you helping 20 and then 100 more is coming. So it's like you ain't really solving no problem. So like, how do we combat that, you think?
I mean, I think the first very practical way is having those conversations and being bold enough to say just that to funders, right? Like, this isn't working for me. That's what I did. When Grant Oliphant called me, the first money I got, I've never applied for a grant. I was called because they seen our work. And he came to one of our protests downtown and he said, how come you've never applied for money from us? And I said, because when I went on your website, I didn't see anything I fit in. I didn't know what these boxes meant. None of this fit my work, in my opinion, you know? And I just had a real honest conversation with them. There's been a lot of foundations, the Opportunity Fund, Pittsburgh Foundation, that I've worked with, that they've changed the way that they fund it, right? And I think we don't understand the power that we have. And that's what I mean when I say when you're tapped into a higher power, you don't feel like you can't say this to this person. You know what I mean? Like, why can't you say that to them?
You're not deterred by titles.
Right, if it's the truth though, right? And it's all about, my grandmother told me, you can say anything to anybody. It's about the way you say it. Right? And if you're being honest and you're saying, look, I love my community, I love my folks, and the way that you're funding is not helping us. Right? If you're wondering why there's a problem, or why when you keep putting money into Homewood and y'all saying there's $8 million here in Homewood, all this millions of dollars in Homewood, why we still have the issues, more you are not seeing something. Right? Maybe you need to listen to us. And people will listen if you go have that conversation. It's just more often than not, we don't feel like we can have that conversation, or if we do, it's going to put us at an outcast, right? And they're not going to give us money when we do want it.
Right. Or we don't know about it. We don't know who they had a conversation with. Like, I know brothers, like, just coaches around the sports stuff who do stuff, spend money out their own pocket, gas and everything. They're doing stuff when I'm just like, bro, how long you been doing this? He's like, man, I've been doing it 5-10 years. You pay, there's money you could get to help you with that. And people don't have a clue. They're strictly doing it out of the love for the youth. You know what I'm saying? The love for the family. They strictly like, man, I'll do it. I mean, I know here in Homewood, my organization, we're like, yeah, we want funding. But if we don't get it, y'all ain't stopping nothing. Right. We still want to do it. But our whole point of this is, why do we have to fight for crumbs if you can see with your own eyes the work and the impact we're doing? You know what I'm saying? And what I dealt with a lot is, I wasn't really good on the technical stuff at one point. So it's like if I apply for something, it might not look as nice as somebody else.
Mine's never did.
You know what I'm saying? and that disqualifies us a lot of times, because when they don't know you, they're like, who is this person? They don't know you, and to me, I feel like they be lazy, because we in social media right now. You can say you can look in different neighborhoods and see what people are doing.
How many people do you know appear to be doing a lot and are not doing anything? I mean, some people are good at marketing.
That's true too.
Right? Let's just be honest, right?
That's true too.
Those folks have been along for years, and they've seen it come and go. And I think, it's really about really us being able to tap in. Like, we're so much in our silos, right? Like, just me being on the show right now. I didn't even know y'all saw me that way. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, honestly. And I feel like we don't communicate enough, right? And grabbing folks who are not specifically in our lane of work, and this is something I've always said, I compare the work or the movement to our bodies, right? And I got this from an example out of the Bible, but I just applied it to community work, because our whole body, we have two hands. Just because I have two hands, I would never want one to be gone. I don't want nobody chop off my arm. I need both, because they're coming from two different angles. Right? So you need both. I would never tell my hand to tell my foot is not needed, because it does two different things. Because when one is not functioning well, my body is not complete. I can't function in my wholeness. Right? But when we all operate in our giftings and our talents, and we respect the fact that we all have different giftings and talents and are not jealous of it. Right. My hand can't be jealous of my eye. Y'all both need it. Yeah. You know what I mean? What you jealous for? Because you got two different functions. Right. You're created to do what you do. You're created to do what you do. There's no need for y'all to hate each other. Right. If anything, y'all should come together and see how do we supplement and become whole as a community by bringing our gifts together.
It's crazy, because without even having a conversation with you, you are thinking like how we think as far as what we need to do. And I even broke it down like, when you collaborating, right? And you know there's funding out there, right? And you're on, let's collaborate to get it. It should just be everything equal down the middle.
And you get more when you come together.
Yeah, it should just
be why should you apply for $50,000? You apply for $100,000. When collectively we could come together with our brilliant minds, because we are brilliant. Right, with our brilliant minds, put a plan together that we know is going to work for our communities and get $1 million. Right. You're not going to get it unless you ask for it. Right. But we keep going for the little bit because that's what they're putting in front of us. We have to say no. That's not enough. Right. That's not enough for what I need to do. And
man,
our
you need
kids
to come
deserve
and talk
better.
We gotta get you around. We gotta get you around some of these organizations. Some of the sports organization with these coaches and stuff, man, because I think a lot of times like hearing the outside voice speaking when we be trying to preach, it'll just hit so much harder, because this is the stuff I try to tell people all the time. Like,
it's plain
like
and
we
clear.
have to come together. Like, yeah, we might have differences in some stuff, but let's find out what we have a common goal in. Because then it's like, if we have a common goal, we don't got to worry about the stuff we did. Let's just focus on our goal together, and then we can build off of that. And the way you speaking it, man, you need a bigger platform.
I mean, our common goal at the end of the day is to better the lives for our kids that are coming up behind us, right? It's to better the lives for us. I mean, the economy's getting crazy, right? Having one job ain't even enough now.
Housing is limited.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so our people are in more dire straits than they have been before. But honestly, it's about building up people, right? And that's what I was going to say is the other part of how we get to this, because people come up against me all the time. I mean, just as recent as last week, right? And like, people couldn't imagine the stuff I deal with from people in our community, literally. From people in Homewood who call themselves community leaders. You know what I mean? Who just want to be where I'm at, so they want to tear me down. But I don't even see, like, it's crazy because I feel like I still cry at night because I don't feel like I'm doing enough. You know what I mean? I'm like, Lord, like, you called me here. Like, Jordan Miles, we're opening this youth engagement center on Friday, and we're calling it the J. Miles Youth Engagement Center, because I carry so much guilt with me, because I was brand new when I met their family and trying to help. I didn't know nothing about advocacy. I was just like, this ain't right. You know what I mean? We got to do something. Somebody, I'm not going to sit on my watch and let this happen in our community.
But that's the nature of advocacy right there.
But I didn't know it then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's but I wanted to pay homage to him. So we named it after him. It's called the J. Miles Youth Engagement Center, because I felt like everybody after him was able to get so much more, you know. And the police officer that did it to him still on the force. Like, I felt like I didn't complete the mission.
So real quick, for the people who don't know what happened to Jordan Miles, give us a quick overview of that, and then talk about the Youth Engagement Center and what you guys will be offering through that space.
Yeah, so Jordan lived on Tioga Street. His grandmother lived the street right behind him, and she lived alone. So every night he would go to stay the night at her house, so she wouldn't be sleeping by herself in the house. And so the one night in January, he left his house around 11:30 at night. It was ice, snow on the ground. It's January. He's walking up the street. An unmarked blue car with black tinted windows pulls up on him, and the screech is like, "Arr!" He takes off. Like the average person does, right? It's Homewood, it's 11:30 at night. This car just coming up on me like, he runs. You know, Jordan at the time was a senior at Kappa. He played the viola. He had just played for President Obama and his wife.
Wow.
You know, they went down there. When he ran, as we know, has always been the tactics of Zone 5 and a lot of undercover jump out squads. They beat you up because you ran. Right? Like, now I'm going to catch you. I'm going to teach you. No different than slavery. Right? I'm going to teach you. You run from me. This is what's going to happen to you when I catch you.
Yeah. Instilling fear.
Right. And so, you know, they used to carry those metal flashlights with the long stems. They beat him in his head with a flashlight. When they caught him, they ripped his locks out the side of his head from the root. And locks were thick.
All because he ran.
Only because he ran. And also because they assumed he was a young black man out at 11:30 at night with locks in his hair. They profiled him, right? He has to be up to no good. Because what is anybody doing here at 11:30 at night in Homewood outside?
So no,
not that they live there.
No reason to stop him, basically, what you're saying.
Oh, they had no reason whatsoever. And it's because, you know, if you jump out on 20 people, you might get something off of 4.
Yeah.
Right? That's their thing. And they don't care about the other people that are casualties to their situation.
That were violated.
Right? And so for Jordan, they lied. They said, oh, we thought he had a gun because he had a bulge in his pocket. They said the bulge turned out to be a soda can. It's not illegal for young black men to have guns. My son is a legal gun carrier. Right? So when I hear that, it burns me up. And every time he calls me when he's pulled over, my heart drops. Right? Like, how many parents have to deal with that? Because their child calls them at 1 o'clock in the morning, you automatically assume something's wrong. You know? But he's a legal gun carrier. So somebody having a gun or a bulge in their pocket is not reason to do anything to them. Right? And so, but he didn't have anything. He didn't even have a soda can. He didn't have a soda pop. He didn't have anything in his pockets. They made it up. They lied. And, you know, they came out. There was a witness in the window that saw the whole thing. I'll never forget her. And, you know, and Jordan has always been very meek, mild-mannered. He still is. You know, he's going to be at the grand opening, but very meek and mild-mannered. And so when I met him, and I met his family, and I'm like, these cops were not only grown men, they were big as heck. Like, big. You know what I mean? One of them was the trainer. And so, you know, it was a very brutal...
And he's not a big person.
No, not at all. And so, you know, when that occurred, it's... People wonder why, like, we get into the avenue of anti-violence, right? And I tell people our lens on anti-violence is different. Our lens on anti-violence is anti-poverty. And this is why we ask for investment. This is why we ask for money in our communities, money into our schools, equitable funding. That's what makes people violent. They're trying to survive, right? I rob you because I don't have. And our goal as an organization is to prevent people from entering the system. And so when people say as a criminal justice organization, we look at how are people even getting into the criminal legal system. A lot is because people are using drugs, right? That's a public health issue. That's not something that you get arrested for. You need help, right? But we're taking them to jail. A lot is because people have mental health issues, right? Jail's not going to help them. It's going to make it worse. And so our kids are out here popping pills, right? They have emotions they cannot regulate. We can't even regulate them half the time. We grown, right? They have emotions they cannot regulate. And they're trying to survive. And they're living in households they're not getting love, right? And so for me, I want to pour into this child. I want to show them that there's a different path. I want to give them different opportunities. If every day you wake up, all you see is Homewood, what do you think you could possibly do or be? Right? If that's all that's in front of you every day, what hope do you have in your heart? And so at our center, we are going to have a full-time social worker on site. We are going to have a mental health specialist once a week. We are going to have something we call the Zen Room, where, because we're going to be a diversion program, right? So all this stuff is going on with youth downtown. You know, I'm sitting back watching. We got 2,100 youth coming through downtown every day. Sheesh. We got, because we don't have school buses. Right? We have 4 schools downtown. And then we have everybody else being bused down there. And our response to our young people who are looking for Wi-Fi, so they're going into businesses. Yeah. They're looking for a bathroom. There's not one public restroom downtown Pittsburgh.
What?
So this is my pass-through after school. I got to come down here, wait on the bus to get to my neighborhood. I can't even go to the bathroom.
That's crazy.
Right? So, of course, I'm going into businesses. Yeah. And I might not be buying anything because I don't have the money, but I still got to go to the bathroom.
Right.
So the businesses were calling the police and saying that the kids are loitering. Right? So they're getting stopped or cited. They're fighting because you got people from everywhere. I mean, kids do that. Whether people are like, no, nobody should be fighting, you fight. If you didn't, somebody around you did. Yeah. You know, because you don't know how to resolve conflict properly. And so, you know, we looked at that and we said, these kids don't deserve to be getting records because they want Wi-Fi and they're hanging out in businesses and it's cold outside. Yeah. Right? They don't deserve to be getting arrested for assault because they're fighting. And so we are signing an MOU with the City of Pittsburgh that any youth you encounter downtown, bring them to us instead of arresting them. Right? Oh, okay. And that Zen room is going to be the first room they go to. Oh, okay. Right? If you're in a fight, you're going to have to calm down. Because you know your adrenaline be pumping. And you have to have people who understand youth development. You have to have people, yes, you know, who are mature enough. And that's the biggest work we got to do, is to work on ourselves. I can't be out here leading unhealed. And I did that. And I hurt people unintentionally because I wasn't healed. Yeah. You know what I mean? I didn't sign up for this. This wasn't something I woke up and this wasn't my dream. So I had to grow into the role, but I also had to learn myself through it. And I think far too often we don't really work on our own mental health so we can deal with the opposition we're going to come up with, right? With all the things we're going to deal with in the community. How can we address it or respond to somebody if we're in that moment, not healthy enough ourselves to help them, or we're responding, or we're reacting instead of responding.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I did that a couple of times, and I had to be checked by people that cared about me. People that love me like sis. And some people checked me that didn't like me, like B. And they wasn't calling Brandi. But we learned through all of that, because at the end of the day, my heart has always been pure. Yeah. My heart,
and people can recognize
has always been.
Pure.
I might mess up, but my heart has always been in the right place.
So at this center, any kids having an issue can just drop through, or
it's a drop-in center, so you don't have to have issues, right? It's a place for you to come in, go to the bathroom. It's a place for you to come in and eat.
Oh, that's
for you to chill, do your homework. Yeah. You got a bus and you got to wait 45 minutes to come. You don't have to be a member. It's a drop-in center that you come. So we also do have members. Like, people can become members. We have programming. Okay. We're going to have a studio and a podcast center. Okay. Right? So I'm going to have to probably get Amos to come down and tell me what I'm missing. But, and we have a big lounge. We have some PS5s down there. Okay. It's just a space for them, and we want it to be for them.
What's the capacity? Like, is it a limit of how many people y'all can have at one time?
Well, we have the entire 5th floor. We're servicing 15 to 25-year-olds because science tells us that people 23 and 24's brains are still developing, right? They're still youth, right? This 18-year-old age was put on us by society. And so all of a sudden our family's adopted. You're 18, get out. You know what I mean? You're 18, you're grown. You're not grown. Right. You're growing.
Barely out of high school.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And we give up on our kids and let them go at that age when they need us the most, when they're figuring out life. So we're going to service that age group because that's the age group we feel like is left out of intentional investment, right? Because that's the age group that's going to jail. And the way we're going to do it is, the kids might watch this podcast, but we're not introducing them to people like, this is the mental health specialist, right? This is going to be somebody that's interacting with the youth, right? We know they're a mental health specialist, but they're going to be another person on the team in the building. And so if a child is having a problem, they're just going to go to them like, you okay? And have to start a conversation with them. So there's no stigma attached to it. So there's not kids like, oh, he's over there talking to the crazy lady. You know what I mean? Because kids are like that, and so it's really needs-based. And our organization, that's what we do. We are focused on root causes, so the work takes longer. Right? And it needs more investment, because I'm tired of these Band-Aids. Right? It's like, let's get to the root of the issue. And if you can get to the root of the issue and pull that root up out, you don't have to worry about anything else coming up out of that. And so we look at root causes. So what is the root cause of violence? Right? And here is poverty. Right? Majority or not, when we're talking about community violence in the black community, it's poverty. I don't know people who are well off with money out here shooting people. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, true. I don't know nobody who's taken care of and got stuff to lose out here shooting people.
Taking
I ain't not met one person.
The wrong risks.
Right. You know what I mean? And so it's, how do we solve that? We solve that by making sure that they're not in survival mode. We solve that by making sure they have what they need, right? We solve that by making sure they're properly educated and our schools are not closing. We solve that by making sure politicians are making decisions for us and not just for the other folks on the other side of Penn Avenue. Right? And so that's how we got into politics. Because when you're talking about needs-based, as I learned, the organization expanded. And when I seen, okay, we're going to get justice for Jordan Miles, and it was, Alliance for Police Accountability, we need to hold the police accountable, because the idea was, if we can hold them accountable, then the community would trust in the system again. I was so naive. And I mean, I had to grow up in front of everybody. And I'm still growing. But, and then I learned that, wait a minute, the police are the bottom of the totem pole. They're the ones enacting the violence, but the people who's responsible for holding them accountable is our district attorneys, our judges. Like, we need to get different people in office. I used to really believe that the DA wasn't charging police because of the way the law was written, right? Which is partly true, right? The laws are written to protect certain things. And so that's why you'll hear people say, well, they didn't violate policy. or they didn't do anything against the law. And that's when I say, well, there needs to be a policy. Now that we had this, then we need a policy that says this shouldn't happen. Says that's the excuse you're gonna give me. Because what about humanity? What about what's just justice? What's righteous?
The system. I'm gonna keep saying it. Like it's set up that way.
It is, but that's why we have to reconstruct it. You know, and it took a lot of years to get here, and we've made a lot of progress. I mean, a lot of progress. I mean, you know, 10 years ago when I started this work, I was like, my friend always tell me don't say blackball. Because that's, you know, they put black to make negative everything. But, you know, I really was blackballed, even by my own people. They were like, I was told not to be seen talking to you.
That's crazy.
You know, like I had somebody literally tell me that to my face, right? Because policing was not something that was on a part of any political platform. They were talking about healthcare, environmental justice. You know, they've always talked about housing, but they weren't talking about criminal justice. They never were talking about that. It was always law and order, more police, more money. That's what got you votes. Now you can't run for office in this area in Allegheny County and not have a criminal justice reform on part of your platform. It's just not going to happen. That's progress because we made our issue a part of the political platform when we were erased out of the political platform. You know, so now, you know, you see Sarah Marauder running. She's talking about what she's going to do for Allegheny County Jail. Do you think she would have had to talk about that before 10 years ago? Did Rich Fitzgerald have to promise anything about Allegheny County Jail? You know, we have really changed the trajectory of, you know, how the work is viewed. But our kids, you know, when you talk about the Allegheny County Jail and you talk about children being down there as adults, they're all black. Right? I just told you. 13% of the population. All black. Kids. 13-year-old, 15-year-old.
At the
Allegheny County. Getting strip searched.
Wow.
Right? Writing saying that they feel violated. This is why I cry. Because I want to just go break into jail and get the babies out. You know what I mean? It's just, and I don't care if a 14-year-old has not been here long enough to be responsible.
So when they took away the Schumann Center, what was your feeling about that?
They were putting kids in the jail when we had Schumann.
Really?
For sure.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
I just want people to know that because people think, oh, they closed Schumann, that's why they're in the jail. They got to go somewhere. They were in the jail when Schumann existed because
they definitely were.
The law, because our district attorney will charge black youth as adults at the drop of a dime. At the drop of a dime, and make every excuse. And I got case after case to compare for their white counterparts. And what we're saying is we want equity, right? We're not saying any child needs to be down there. We're not saying, oh, just put the white kids down there too, we're okay. We're saying the kids don't belong there. And if you know that about your kids that look like you and your family, how come you don't know that about ours? You know, and so, you know, the center, you know, we want to be able to have a place for youth to thrive and develop. We partner with some unions. We partner with Kenyon and Dante at the Pittsburgh Trade Institute, right? Because we want our youth to be able to get into these apprenticeships. We're going to help them because there's barriers about driver's license, but everybody's parents don't have cars to learn how to drive or money to go to driver school. So we're partnering with State Rep Arian Adney, PennDOT, and some construction companies to provide funding for our youth to be able to go to these apprenticeships, to go to driver school, to get what they need to get on their feet. And we're going to walk them every step of the way, right? We're going to let them know there are other options out here for you.
That's dope.
Right? They don't know there's so many different jobs you can do. We're just, there's like this little slate of jobs you think you can have. Like, there's so many jobs out here that you can do. That you're just never introduced to. We also take community field trips. So once a year, last year we went to African American Museum. The community field trip is open to the entire community, right? Ages 13 to 19. Anybody, you see it, you can sign up. And because people need to get out of town. They have to get out of this and see that there is more to life.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because when I started traveling, it made a big difference for me.
Open your eyes up.
I was like, oh my God, we ain't got to live like this. You know what I mean? Like, we could have more if we talk to people about making sure, like, why does Square Hill look like that? And Homewood look like this? What is the difference?
3 minutes away from each other.
Why is that? It's the people in that place fighting and advocating for more. relentlessly, right? And so what I've learned is, which is why I don't rock with everybody. I will work with anybody. I don't rock with everybody. I just don't. And I don't care about saying, I just don't. Because you have to have like-minded people who share your values to work with. Otherwise, it'll just stall progress. Right? If we can't come to the table, and every time we come to the table, you got this one person always talking about, why are we doing this? Why is it like that? Look, you go somewhere else and get educated. We here to work. Right? So the people at this table are already on the same page. So we can get work done. Right? I'm all about educating people, but I don't want to educate people at a table I'm supposed to be getting work done. Because I can't get work done if I'm educating you. Right? And so that's what we did with our coalition. People were mad because it was invitation only. But we invited people who we know have our ideology. We invited people who we know we didn't have to spend time in a 2-hour meeting and at 30 minutes of it was arguing and debating ideology.
I mean, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to get anywhere.
We trying to we trying to problem solve, man.
We're trying to be the solution. Right? We're trying to be the solution. And if we got to sit here and argue, we're just creating more problems.
Absolutely.
And so I just, I feel like our community needs to just come together more. We need to have a space where we're just like once a month, whether it's a think tank, with people who we know really care about advancing the Black community, who really care about our youth, and just talk about what you're doing, and talk about what collectively needs done. I think the problem is, like, Brandi comes to the table and want what she wants. Moo comes to the table and want what he wants. Lawrence comes to the table and want what he wants. But we're not coming to the table building something together. Right? We just want to advance what we're already doing.
Right.
Well, we need to create things. We need to be innovative.
That's real.
It's like, what do our kids need right now? And that's what I tell people. Tell me what our kids need. I'm going to get the money for it. What do our kids need? I will let them know this is what the kids need. And also, they got to take risk on us. Right? We got to have room. Give me $100,000. Okay, I messed up. And it's just because there's one thing I didn't do right and I needed it. It doesn't mean that the idea wasn't right. Right? You got to take risk and learn and keep moving. But people have to be willing to invest in that.
I'm glad you advocating for that for us, man.
All day.
Because it's a lot of us that aren't, well versed in that arena on how to go at it or how to manage it. We just got the love and the idea and the heart, but execution, like some people still need training in executing. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want to mess up like the bag if you made an error on something, an honest error. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but it's communication. I did not get taught this. It's just when you're doing it, right? And when you're like, happens. And when you're like, I tell them that in my grants. I thought, because I'm all ambitious, I'm like, we're going to get this done in 12 months. Now you gave me this money? Oh, we're going to get this done, Right. And it's like, it took longer than I thought. You know what I'm saying? So now I tell them, I can't do nothing with a year grant. I need multi-year funding. It takes me a year just to get the stuff together. You know what I mean? It's the truth.
That's real.
You know what I mean? And then when you're sustaining people, you can't get people jobs and take it away from them. They're buying cars off of that. They're moving in apartments off of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now you're like, the funding is gone. Like, what are we doing? We're putting people in situations to make hard decisions. They're working for the community and selling weed. You know what I'm saying? Because they're in survival. I mean, that's the reality.
That's real, though.
You know what I mean? And so why are we doing that to our folks?
Right.
And so we have to demand more. And we have to quit saying, I can do all this with this little bit. Because Black people have been doing that forever.
Yeah.
We've been surviving forever.
And we gotta stop.
You know what I mean? Big Mama been turning, that little loaf of bread, everybody done ate. You know what I'm saying? But we don't have to do that for our community. These are our tax dollars. All of us working. I don't care if you work at McDonald's, your tax dollars is going back in. This is our money we asking for. So, and that's what we have to understand. We're not asking for a handout. It's our money.
And we need it.
Oh my God, do we need it?
And we need it. So
we need more.
Right.
Right? You have white-led organizations who's fighting for, good paying jobs, which is good. You know what I mean? Making sure people are being able to stay in their unions. And y'all are trying to maintain a lifestyle. So if they're investing on that level just for you to maintain a lifestyle, how much more do we need to even get there? Right? And this is my argument all the time. Like, we need more. And we have to be able to say that. We have to say that to our mayor. We have to make sure we're standing beside him when he's asking for these investments. We have to make sure we're understanding what's going on, because it's really not that difficult to understand. it's really not that difficult to understand once you get into it. It seems like it's overwhelming. It's really not that difficult to understand.
But the need is the need. At the bottom line, the need is the need.
And you don't have to go to school to get a degree to say these kids need X, Y, and Z.
Well, you such an important person to us. How can we get involved to help support what you're doing, help protect what you're doing, and just to help to build what you're doing? Like, how can, if somebody see this and be like, man, I want to be down with her. Like, what do I need to do? I'll be a soldier, whatever. Like,
because I'm one of them right now. Because
too.
I didn't know you was doing all that.
I've been one of them. But
so,
how can somebody?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of anti-violence work right now downtown.
Okay.
So right now we definitely need help with people. We got 6 hotspots that. Okay, so this is how we're working with the police. The police identify hotspots, right? Downtown partnerships identify hotspots of where the kids are a lot, right? And so they share that information with us. And so we send our outreach team there because our goal is the police going there is going to end up in arrest, right? So we want to make sure our folks are out there, and so we can get these kids together. And it's going to take us some time. They might not listen to everybody. We're not acting like these are the best acting kids in the world.
Yeah.
We know they're not, right? And we know they're not because of circumstances out of their control, right? And it's not making excuses. Like I was about to say, when somebody is 14, they only been walking for like 12 years.
Yeah.
They only been walking. They only been talking for like 12 years. Like anything that's happened in their life can't be their fault.
Right.
Somebody is responsible for them.
Somebody influenced them. Somehow,
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so whether it was their environment, their community, doesn't always mean it's their home. But if I'm a single mom and I got to bust my butt and work 2 jobs, I can't be there all the time.
Right.
You know? And so there's a lot of absent stuff going on. And it's not because it's neglect. It's I'm trying to take care of my family. You know? And so if you got to be outside all day and you're around these people more, that's what it is. And so we really need, folks just to be in the space, right? To interact with these kids.
So is
to
there
talk
like
to them.
a website, phone number that you can give?
Yes, we do have a website. Our website is www.apa-pgh.org. But you could call 412-708-5200. That's our hotline, 412-708-5200. That's the line people call if they have an interaction with police. That's the line people call from the jail because we're a hotline for the jail as well, since we got that solitary confinement bill passed. So people are not put in solitary confinement. But we're really excited to be able to be on the proactive side of things and not just responding. We're always going to be there to intervene and respond, but we really wanted to provide a space that didn't exist, in our opinion, for young people ages 15 and 25 to just say, I have a place to go, right? We're open 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So they can just come down there. Like, I have somewhere to go where people are going to be there for me. I can go get something to eat instead of you stealing out of CVS. You know what I'm saying? Or stealing out. Everybody go to the candy store after school. You know, if you ain't got money, you stealing the candy bar.
That's going to be super dope.
You know, you could come get it out of here. You don't got to steal.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, look, man. Thank Brandi for coming on the show. Brandi is definitely a solution. Like, rewind it back, get the info, contact her. You know, we down for you. We got you whenever you need us.
And I'm here for y'all too.
Like,
if we need to have these conversations about funding, if I tell people all the time, my connections are not for me. I am well connected. I got almost everybody's cell phone number. If you need a meeting with somebody, you need to talk to somebody, you need help navigating that, that's what we're supposed to be here for. We're supposed to be like brothers and sisters.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? So it's the truth.
So I appreciate you. We appreciate you coming to take a time out of your busy day. As you can see, she's busy. As you can see, she's making moves. So we got to make sure we always support strong black women like this.
Thank you.
Especially the strong black men. We got to be behind them, in front of them, beside them, wherever they need us to be. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming out.
I appreciate y'all.
You know what I'm saying?
Love y'all so much.
Thank you.
Clap it up one time for Brandi.
Brandi Fisher,
Thank you.
APA, got the Youth Engagement Center downtown. Make sure y'all tap in.
Friday, February 16th.
And it's what, Monday through?
It's Monday through Saturday.
Monday through Saturday. We'll post all the information. But again, we thank you for joining I Am a Solution. I'm Coach Juan.
And I'm Coach Moo. We out.